Hi everyone, this is Burke-Spraker and welcome to Mumbai once again. Today I'm going to take you on a tour of my Mumbai neighborhood, Hiranandani Gardens. Hiranandani is a master planned community in the central suburbs of Mumbai. In truth, Hiranandani doesn't always feel very much like India. The neighborhood features Italianate architecture and feels very westernized with its Starbucks, Domino's, and even an LPQ, like the one where I wrote this vlog episode yesterday. But one of the most important scenes in the book is actually at Aromas, which is where I often had coffee with my friends. So, welcome to Child or God by Ketan Bhagat. Look, I have a confession to make, okay? I'm actually in the acknowledgments to this book, and I wouldn't normally review a book I worked on, but I want to talk about the most dreaded book marketing collateral piece that is the stuff of writer nightmares. That's right, the blurb. Now, let's get the obvious question out of the way. The answer is yes, they're brothers. So let's just leave it at that and say that with Child or God, Ketan has developed his own unique voice as a writer. His style mixes the lyrical with the polemical, and the sultry with the bitingly funny. Child or God is the story of Raghav, a typical middle-class, middle-aged Indian man. That is to say that he's a man at war with his boss, who cares more about quotas than people, at war with his family, who constantly compare him to his older brother Rishi, at war with Mumbai's traffic, because, really, who isn't? And worst of all, at war with himself. Because what kind of story would it be if he wasn't? In his darkest moment, just as it looks like Raghav is going to lose his battle with drugs, depression, and depravity, God himself arrives to show Raghav the way out of his darkness. Will Raghav follow? Your guess is as good as mine. And I'm actually dying to know what you think of the ending. But as for genre, it's kind of hard to classify, so I would say contemporary urban fiction meets spirituality meets Mumbai Driving Manual, or as you could also call it, literary fiction. And unlike so many books published in India, however, there is no traditional boy-girl love story here. Like most men his age, Raghav is married. His wife is a beautiful yoga instructor named Leela, but their relationship isn't the core conflict in the book. At times, the marriage feels all too convenient, like a required device to get us to the real love story. And I'll be honest, Raghav is not the best husband to Leela. He has sex with a lot of other women, and the truth is, I don't think he loves any of them. In fact, I'm not even sure Raghav knows what love is. Until he meets Ish, a divine manifestation in his life. But more about Ish later. For Americans, the thing I love about this book is that it shows the reality of middle-class life in India's cities. Raghav's world is gritty without fetishizing Mumbai's poverty. We see the glitzy Bollywood movie premieres and Kamathipura, Mumbai's red light district. Americans will also enjoy the yoga subplot, as it paints a realistic picture of that experience. Trust me, I know. My favorite part of the book is the philosophy, and it's where I hear Ketan's voice the strongest. And if I'm being totally honest, where I had the toughest time cutting his copy. This book is inspired by the Hindu holy book, the Bhagavad Gita. And that's actually why I'm sharing it today on Gita Jayanti, which is the birthday of the Gita. This day celebrates when the Hindu god Krishna gave the wisdom of yoga to Arjuna on the battlefield before he went to war with his brothers. Raghav is our contemporary Arjuna, but instead of a literal battlefield, Raghav fights on a virtual and cultural one. Ish, Raghav's newborn son, is our contemporary Krishna, but instead of a charioteer, our Ish is a little baby. And Ish is the most adorable baby guru you will ever meet. He leads Raghav through each lesson in the Gita with joy and innocence. And the biggest challenge with Ish, though, as a character, was that, like most babies, he's got a pretty limited vocabulary. Fortunately, Ketan has a talent for writing physicality to reflect emotions. Ish's actions speak far louder than his few gurgled words. There's a particularly funny scene involving tea. Do look out for it as you read. And the not so great thing about this book is, let's face it, the size. Look at it. It's as big as my head. But in truth, despite the intimidating size, the book doesn't feel intimidating. Once you start reading, the narrative pulls you in and keeps you. But I should warn you that the content can be pretty emotionally exhausting. Ketan uses violence to express powerful emotions. And at one point, I had to stop reading because I couldn't take the pain anymore. One of the core themes in the book is also one of its most problematic. Ketan gives us an intimate look at the Indian male psyche, and it is not a pretty picture. Raghav represents a new Indian masculinity, one in which it's okay for fathers to love their sons, truly love them, instead of taking the previous generation's more hands-off approach. But as soft as this new version of masculinity can be, it comes at a cost. Leela. For Raghav, she remains merely an object of his sexual desire, with few emotions of her own. Ultimately, the reason I think Americans should read this book, though, is that Ketan represents an emerging voice in Indian masculinity, and I want to see his next offering. So, about the blurb. The blurb is one of the most crucial pieces of marketing collateral, and every writer hates it. The problem is that if it doesn't communicate your message, you won't reach the right readers. Ketan and I spent a lot of time on this blurb. But here's the thing. At the last minute, I sent him another one. That blurb focused on the relationship between Raghav and Rishi. I love the brothers when they're together, so it was only natural that I wanted to highlight the relationship. Ketan read it and rejected it because he understood that focusing on Raghav and Rishi would not communicate the core message of the book, which is the power of fatherhood. My alternative blurb would certainly have attracted more eyeballs, but in the end, the book would not have reached the right audience. In short, he chose the message over the marketing and accepted that he might find fewer readers, but that they would be the right ones. Well, that's all from Hiranandani. I hope you'll join me next time when we travel to one of my favorite states, Punjab. Until then, you can visit me on my website at jeanspraker.com, on Twitter at Magnolia to Mumbai, and on Insta at jeanspraker. So thank you once again for joining me in Mumbai, and I hope to see you again soon. Chalo.